Welcome to SS2 Islamic Religious Studies. This lesson explores human rights in Islamic law, examining the foundation, content, and contemporary interpretation of human rights from an Islamic perspective, and comparing the Islamic approach with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Islamic theology provides a powerful foundation for human rights. The Quran, 17 hours 70 minutes, states, "We have honored the children of Adam." This verse establishes that every human being, by virtue of being human, possesses inherent dignity and honor bestowed by God. Human beings are also described as Khalifa, stewards or vicegerents of God on earth, Quran 2:30, a role that implies responsibility, capability, and inherent worth. The concept of fitra, the natural constitution or original nature with which all humans are created, also supports universal human dignity, as all humans share the same fitra regardless of race, religion, or nationality. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his farewell sermon declared, "Your blood, your properties, and your honor are sacred to you as this day, in this month, in this city are sacred." This declaration is seen as a foundational charter of human rights in Islam. Classical Islamic jurisprudence developed the concept of maqasid al-sharia, the higher objectives of Islamic law. Al-Ghazali and Ibn Ashur systematized 5 essential objectives that the Sharia aims to protect: hifz al-din, protection of religion and freedom of conscience; hifz al-nafs, protection of life and physical integrity; hifz al-aql, protection of intellect and mental capacity; hifz al-nasl, protection of family and lineage; hifz al-mal, protection of property and wealth. These 5 maqasid provide an Islamic framework for human rights. The right to life, hifz al-nafs, corresponds to the right to life in international human rights law, the right to freedom of thought and religion; hifz al-din, the right to education; hifz al-aql, the right to family protection; hifz al-nasl, the right to property; hifz al-mal. Contemporary scholars including Tariq Ramadan have argued that the maqasid provide a complete Islamic human rights framework that is authentically rooted in Islamic sources while compatible with universal human rights principles. In 1990, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, WAEC, adopted the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam as an alternative to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the United Nations in 1948. Key features of the Cairo Declaration: it affirms the rights to life, physical integrity, and equality before the law. It prohibits discrimination on grounds of race, color, language, belief, sex, religion, political affiliation, or social status. It affirms freedom of movement and the right to asylum. Key differences from the UDHR: the Cairo Declaration makes all rights subject to the Sharia. Article 24 states that all rights and freedoms mentioned in the declaration are subject to the Islamic Sharia. The UDHR asserts universal human rights that apply to all persons regardless of religion. The Cairo Declaration's subjection of rights to Sharia has been criticized by human rights organizations as potentially limiting rights in ways inconsistent with international human rights standards, particularly regarding religious freedom. Apostasy carries severe penalties under some interpretations of Sharia, and gender equality. 3 areas generate particular debate in discussions of human rights and Islamic law. Apostasy: read classical Sunni jurisprudence prescribe death for apostasy, abandoning Islam. Contemporary Muslim scholars are divided. Some maintain the classical position, others, including Sudanese scholar Mahmoud Muhammad Taha, executed for apostasy in 1985, and Egyptian scholar Nasser Abu Zaid, argue for rereading the classical text and that compulsion in religion violates the Quranic principle 2:256. There is no compulsion in religion. Gender equality: classical Islamic law in areas such as inheritance, a female heir receives half the share of a male heir in many cases. Marriage and testimony has been criticized as unequal. Contemporary Muslim feminist scholars including Amina Wadad and Fatima Manisa have argued for rereadings of Quranic texts that support gender equality, distinguishing between eternal Quranic principles and historically contingent rulings. Minority rights: the classical concept of dhimma, protected status for non-Muslims in an Islamic state, created a framework of rights and obligations for religious minorities that was seen as relatively tolerant in its historical context but falls short of modern equality standards. Today we covered that Islamic theology establishes human dignity through the Quranic affirmation of divine honor for all children of Adam and the concept of Khalifa. The Maqasid al-Sharia, 5 higher objectives, provide an indigenous Islamic framework for human rights. The 1990 Cairo Declaration affirms many rights but subjects them to Sharia, distinguishing it from the Universalist UDHR. Contemporary debates address apostasy, gender equality, and minority rights, with diverse scholarly opinions reflecting the dynamism of Islamic thought. For your essay exercise, discuss the concept of hifz al-nafs, protection of life, as a maqasid and explain how it supports both the Islamic prohibition of murder and contemporary human rights arguments against capital punishment or torture.